So how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing my best to hang in there.
Oh, it's good to
Day
see
by
you.
day.
I'm really looking forward to our interview today. You've got you got a lot of passions, um, and one of them obviously is patriotic and all that you stand for there. But you also have a passion for standing up and increasing awareness for people going through all sorts of hardship, right, and things. And so now that this is that's kind of be most of the focus um, in talking about that, and I'm going to just kind of introduce what was on the announcement post in a second, and then give you an opportunity to kind of elaborate on it. But I also just wanted to mention that and kind of nod to you, and that even though we won't maybe get into a lot of the things that you stand for in terms of your beliefs and the patriotism that you have, we certainly need people like that as well, right? And so I commend you for what you're doing, even if that's not the main things that we talk about today. You guys, those that haven't been following Tracy, please do. She's had 13 major surgeries. She's had neck fusions. She deals with chronic pain. She's a domestic violence survivor. She deals with post traumatic stress disorder. She has alternative pain uh, uh, ideas and a business owner for that. My wife really, I think, would give you a nod for that. She's got medical cannabis approved for her that she's doing. Um, and you're a really vocal public speaker and a positivity leader. Anything but just a passive, submissive person. Really, just kind of an inspiration for people in talking about sometimes things that people shy away from because they maybe for whatever reason, right? There's people that shy away for talking about whether it's political, religious, spiritual truths, and even just pain and hardship and stuff like that. And one of the big reasons why I know that a lot of people um, don't like talking about it is because they associate some kind of negative experience with talking about that with people. And one of the things that we love about this space is it's a positive, safe space to be able to talk about hard things, and it's been not only something that's helped break down stigmas, but it's been something that provides a platform for people to be able to talk about these things and have it be a good thing, a positive thing, and inspiring. And so we're really excited about that, and having you scheduled for today. And it'll typically last for about an hour-ish approximately, so just to kind of give you an idea. But I want to just kind of turn the time over to you, and you can kind of go back as far as you want, but uh, kind of for those that don't know you at all, and especially even on your TikTok, sometimes you don't share a lot about these things, right?
Right.
And this will be recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube. And even for those that follow you now, I think that some of what you might share may be new to them, and so I'm hoping that this provides an opportunity for you to be able to share some things that are not only new to people that come across our YouTube page, but even just your current followers. Because after this is uploaded, I'll let you know, and then you can direct people there for people that weren't able to watch the whole thing, or however you want to do that to help you. So with that, I'll just turn the time over to you. I mean, where do you want to kind of start? How far back when you deal with any kind of pain related as you've gone through? Where would you kind of start? Some people go back into childhood. Some people teenage years. Some people just a couple of years ago. What would that be for you, my friend?
I think it would. I certainly had some difficulty in my childhood, but where I began to grow and help people was around be a journeyman plumber, and then I broke my back. Um, I was convinced at the time that the fusion was the best option for me.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have learned a few more things about that surgery and the outcomes before I had done that. But you wouldn't have been able to talk me out of it in 2009.
Yeah. You were
So I
pretty
had my
convinced of
doc.
it.
I was positive that the X-rays showed, and I could fix it, and I could get on with my life, and that would be that.
Yeah.
Um, I was wrong. I then began trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life as far as a job. And something I was really passionate about was medical cannabis
Hmm.
because it had helped me so much and my sister, who has passed away 8 years ago. And I watched her literally transform her life from a pill addiction into medical cannabis and just really start living her life and glowing. And that taught me a lot, and it encouraged me to try to help more people in that way.
Okay. Good. Good.
So, um, so first I got a job working at one of the number one authorization clinics in Washington State, which is no longer here. So I can go ahead and tell you about that company. It was the Forever Green Company, and they were primarily based in Western Washington. I lived in Eastern Washington, so I opened up offices for them. I did that for 2 years and was paid very minimally, and I worked extremely hard. I went door to door to every business, and I really interacted with the community and tried to get people to come listen to what we had to say and just try to make a difference. I
Hmm.
certainly didn't want to see what I watched with my sister happen to anyone else.
Yeah. Really.
Yeah. So I worked for them for a while, and then I worked for another doctor, and I got treated the same way. I found myself going to work crying and coming home crying because it was more of a money operation than a
The
caring for
motivation
people.
behind it.
Absolutely, it was all about money, and when I realized that, I was having a very hard time going to work. I was really lucky that I found a doctor who worked for them. I actually brought her in, um, that shared the same beliefs and ideals as I do about compassionate care and education. And I asked her, if I were to quit, would you come with me and we could start our own company and give these people what they truly deserve and educate them and not just run them through like a mill and collect their money?
Hmm.
And she said yes. And it was the
Wow.
beginning of an amazing relationship. We traveled together. We had 4 locations in Eastern Washington. They were all about 2 to 3 hours apart from each other. So we would travel together for a week straight and go to each office and help as many people as we can. Our clinic started with, I think, 7 people at the first one. And then we grew to up to 30 people a day and then multiple days in a row in each location. We saw over 7,000 people while I owned Patients for Patients Medical, and it was incredible.
Wow. Wow.
We offered free services to cancer patients, and we did that because after I saw the cancer patients coming in through the other companies and saw that they were already completely depleted of all of their financial means, and cancer is a money making. Um, it's really horrible what they do
On
for these
top of what they're
people.
going through, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's disgusting how they bleed them for money. And so I didn't want to be that person. And also in Washington, in order to qualify for medical cannabis at the time, you had to go through all of the traditional treatments. So they had been put through the ringer already. This was kind of their last ditch hope that this might help them. And whether it was to give them quality of life or actually really dive in and try to save their life, I wanted to do that for free.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the doctor didn't charge me, that I got free rent from my locations, that I didn't pay for assistants to help me during the clinic. I paid for all of that, but as far as I was concerned, at my company, that was a free service. And so we helped 500 patients that way, over 500 for free. Laws
Wow.
got stricter when they introduced recreational here. It completely changed our medical system for cannabis. And most people in my position or with a company like mine bailed immediately
risk.
My doctor, Everest. And I said to my doctor, "Are you willing to take this risk with me?" And she said, "Absolutely." So we did it the best way we knew how. We followed the rules, even though we didn't agree with them sometimes, and it meant turning away people that we knew qualified. We followed the rules because we had to protect everyone involved. So if you're bending the rules for one person, it can collapse the whole system.
You have to kind of do your best in a flawed world, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was most the most successful I've been, not just financially, but internally. Like, I felt good about what I was doing. I knew I was making a difference. I knew our team was making a difference. I could see the results with people. I was watching their medical records change, and they were getting better, and I could, it was tangible. I could feel it, and I could see it. It was very rewarding.
Now you experienced what you did with your sister, was it?
Yes.
Yeah. But you also have had your own procedures that sounds like has contributed to you having that compassion for people, right? That are in pain. Tell me a little bit about these surgeries that you've had.
Sure. So in 2014, when I started my Patients for Patients, I started having some ear problems, and I couldn't figure it out. I'd always been nauseous. I always woke up throwing up every morning for over 20 years, or around 20 years. My ears started draining a lot. I went in to get my ears cleaned. They thought that they thought something fell close to the exit, but they couldn't retrieve it, so they sent me to a specialist. Come to find out, that was a small piece of the 20-year-old cholesteatoma tumor that was growing in my left ear. Cholesteatoma tumors are not cancerous, but what they do is they eat bone. And their objective, or what they end up doing, is they eat the bone through your skull, give you a brain infection, and you pass away. 100 years ago, before imaging, it was the second leading cause of death because there was no way to find out what was wrong with the person. They would have ear draining, and then they'd get very sick and they'd pass away from the infection. So when I caught my first ear surgery, uh, they estimated it to be 20 years old. They cleaned out the ear, they reinforced my skull, they sent me home. It grew back right away. Um, and I had to have another surgery. I had to have that surgery 4 times, where they remove your whole ear, lay it on your face, go in, carve it out, reinforce it. I was starting to think this was my life. I'm never going to get away from this. I was getting really depressed. I was also maintaining my job. I never missed a clinic. I would go I would go just delirious to the clinics and rely on the help we had there, because I was just stubborn and committed, and I just didn't want to let anything take me down.
Wow.
So, um, so that's 2 years of every 6 months having a major surgery, and I felt like I was in the clear. It was December 5th of 2016 when I was at clinic in Yakima, Washington, and it began snowing. It wasn't forecasted. My doctor lived and had to drive over an hour away. I lived over a half hour away. We decided that we would take our charting home that night and finish up our charting at our home offices to get home safely. So I didn't have my snow tires on. I was driving as careful as I could. I was doing about 30 miles an hour on the freeway, and I lost control of my car, and I crashed. And which it didn't seem like that big of a deal. I mean, the car started, we were able to get it back on the road and get home. I had a passenger with me, she wasn't injured. That was my main concern that night. The
Yeah.
next morning I woke up and I was hurting so bad, I thought I better go in and get this checked out.
Wow.
That began a long process of finding out that I had actually, my C5, C6 vertebrae had slipped into my spinal. That's why I had myelopathy. When I went to the nerve doctor and filled out the pain chart, he kind of gave me a weird look and started his test. And he said, "Well, you have carpal tunnel." And I said, "I've already had carpal tunnel surgery
Wow.
And he said, but I can see now that you have myelopathy, and it would absolutely cause the pain and the nerve damage all throughout your body. And until we get that secured, you're going to continue to have nerve damage, and there's no bringing that nerve damage back. Wherever they can fix it at, that's what you're stuck with, and then you just learn to live with that. So 2 years after that surgery, my low back is still hurting. I'm figuring, my fusion, something happened. They finally find out that the hardware in my low back fusion broke during that accident as well.
Oh, during the accident that happened?
Yeah, so during the car accident, because I hit so hard up against the driver's side door, not only did I smash my head off the door, my whole body hit the door. I bounced back, and that broke the screws in the low back fusion, and it caused the myelopathy in my neck. So then we had to get that surgery approved. I was prepped for a surgery for hardware replacement only. As I was going into the operating room, they stopped me and said, I need you to sign this paper. I was still with it enough to know that that wasn't normal. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd had enough surgeries that I knew something was wrong. I said, no, you're wrong. I have to have this hardware replacement surgery. And they said, no, you're having this other surgery, sign here. I'd already been put on IV medication. I was in the cold room. I was in the operating room. I signed the paper. I don't know what's going to happen. When I wake up, I was fused from C4 to S1. Or not C4, sorry. That would be bad. L4 to S1. So instead of an L4, L5 fusion replacement surgery, I was just cleared my sacrum. It was the most excruciating pain, and still is, that I've ever had to deal with. I can't
So
stand my neck.
they basically did the fusion much longer than was required. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and in fact, when they did the original surgery, they said that they should have gone up a level, but my insurance didn't cover that. Insurance said you're going to get this one level fusion, and when that fails, we'll go ahead and redo it and do one above L4, L5. They didn't do that. They fused lower, and I had never seen any medical proof, X-rays, MRIs, anything that showed that I had anything that needed operated on below that level. But that's
Wow.
what
So
they
you,
did.
I mean, you've had your fair share being in the hospital. You know, it reminds me of the times when I was in the hospital for Nell with her surgeries. And by the way, Nell would have loved to have been here. She's so sorry that she would never miss anything if she had her way. On top of her regular pain that she deals with, we had an emergency dental uh, surgery that needed to happen, and so she's actually recovering, and she's really swollen and things like that. So she dipped in here and said hi to you. So she just
Oh,
wants
hi,
to,
Mel.
yeah. So she's watching here for just a little bit while she's in bed recovering. And so she gives you our love as well. So I just wanted to let you know, you might not have seen her comment because she's commenting to the people that are on my end and just is saying hi to you. So
Oh, thank you for telling me that. And I will send you a gift package now. Don't worry about that.
oh, we love Nell. People come on the page, and with that being pinned, that's actually one of our top posts of what people like is just listening to that 3 minute story of what she had to go through. So anyway, I didn't want to distract you from that story, but seeing her come in and just letting you know that from a caregiver and husband standpoint, we go through quite a lot as well. Did you have family or someone that was kind of going through this journey with you as you were needing to have these surgeries after the accident and things?
I was lucky enough that I did live near my son, my daughter, my mom, my brother, and they all took turns caring for me
Oh,
every time I had a surgery. So even the first surgery when I lived in a studio apartment and I had a king size bed that was almost as big as the apartment. My kids would take turns staying in that bed and making sure I could get up and go to the bathroom, and that I had 3 meals a day, and I had my medication when I needed it. I was very blessed to have that.
Oh, good. It's interesting. One of the things that Nell is so passionate about having as part of our message is, there are so many different conditions. There's so many different living circumstances and relationships, and sometimes people mistakenly um, conclude their importance and how special they are, or how, their worth to some of those things, and how false that is. Right? I mean, there are people in the community that don't feel like they have any friends or family, right? And they are just as important, and their story is just as important as the next person. And then you've got some that have, support systems like you're talking about, and it just breaks my heart to hear people having to go through things, and then they don't even, they don't have on top of that someone like you're explaining that is able to take care of them. So I say that, and also being kind of sensitive, in that, absolutely we want to express that gratitude of those people that are in our lives, and at the same time we also want to share that sensitivity of people that sadly don't always have that, and try to be what we can for them, the best that we can in the capacity that we are, right? Whether that is reaching out to someone, or following them, or learning more about them, or whatever. Um, so anyway, I'm glad that you was able to have some people um, through that. And a lot of what you're talking about is kind of, physical pain, but we also talk about, pain comes in all sorts, right? And could be because of grief, could be because of mental and emotional, past experiences and things like that. And as if what you've been sharing isn't enough, you have, you know, you know, things that you have gone through that have been traumatic on top of that, right? I mean, Nell has expressed and talked about how she went through years of sexual abuse, and that has been something that she has had to live with and cope with, and the triggers and things on top of, other things. So all the more reason for her to have kind of that kindred, connection with those like you, my friend, and that you have a mix of where that pain comes from. And I don't know how much you want to share, with that, but you've at least shared enough to have that be in our announcement post, is that that's part of what you also live with, right? Is
I do. I do. I was sexually abused by my grandfather from the ages of 2 to 12.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My sister, I was forced to watch relatives go through it. He passed away when I was 19, and it's really rough. It's rough to hear the family talk about what a good person he was when he's not. And being the second to the oldest in my generation, for a long time I carried a guilt for my sister, especially my sister. Um, and as a very young child, I would try to protect other children. And now looking back, it was almost like a sacrifice. If I knew he was going to pick on one of the children, I would volunteer to leave with him.
Be
At the
protective.
same,
You got you grew up in ways too fast, and it creates defense, right? You move into kind of a defensive mode and have a difficult time trusting people. And
yeah,
oh, I'm so sorry.
yeah, and you know, I just, I never had a chance to deal with that. It wasn't allowed. We weren't allowed to talk about that um, in the family. That was in the past. Let it go. Don't air your dirty laundry, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um, I'm really lucky that I've had a counselor now for a little over 2 years, and I've learned a lot about communication and how to deal with depression and anxiety, and how to decipher the I know that because I even have, friends and family who see it. So I'm glad I have that.
Oh, yeah, my heart goes out to you, and I know that Nell would say the same. And that, I can't imagine people that have experienced that, and those that are close to to them, and um, we have a long ways still to go. I mean, years ago, decades ago, right? Like you're saying, there's the hush hush, sweep it under the rug. And people are, being more vocal and being able to talk about it and not having it be something that they're maybe afraid of what kind of judgment, right, or whatever it is. And I'm at least grateful that along with all these other kinds of conditions that you and others are sharing, I'm so grateful that we have been moving more into a place, the rightful place, where you too can feel that it's an inspiring story. Um, you know, it's I've got a good friend that had a bale of hay land on him, and he's quadriplegic, and he's become a world renowned speaker now. Um, and that's great, and that's an inspirational story, but it shouldn't be the only kinds of stages and inspirational stories, right, that are out there. And to change a lot of these kinds of uh, dynamics in society, where instead of it being stigmatized and things, that people actually get that inspiration from hearing, um, is a blessing, because it hasn't always been like that, and it's not that way in a lot of places in the world, sadly. Um, but yeah, one of our Shelly's just joined, and she wants a brief recap for those that are just joining. Our friend Tracy's had 13 major surgeries, neck fusions. She deals with chronic pain, domestic violence survivor. She's dealt with PTSD. She has her own business. She's an inspiration, um, and she's also, for the record, although we aren't able to get too much into it, she's just a really passionate patriot, and someone that America can be proud of in terms of what she stands for. So coming back to this other, the PTSD and things that you've gone through, do you find that you still are having to manage triggers? I'm kind of curious.
All the time.
Okay.
All the time. They never go away. They change even. Um, I didn't realize it till I was in a store trying to buy new boots that the smell of fresh leather was a trigger. I
Really?
broke into a panic attack and just started profusely sweating. I couldn't even get off the bench I was on. Luckily, my daughter-in-law was with me, and she's also a trained counselor. She knows a little bit about my past, and she was like, scooped me up and got me out of there. I was bawling by the time I hit the doors. I was embarrassed. What you do, you walk into a store all happy you're going to buy a new pair of boots. You end up in a crying mess on a seat in the back, and you got to walk all the way through that store like that to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with what's going on right now, that trial with Ghislaine Maxwell, and I've read books about Epstein. I mean, that's all triggering too. I had no idea. I knew that this happened. I had no idea the scale of how deeply it's happening, and it's really hard to deal with. But at the same time, it's not something I want to shy away from. It's something I want to talk about. I love the phrase "Let's talk about it." Let's do talk about it.
You mean in terms of um, how frequently sexual abuse is happening in our kids? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, yes. Let's talk about that, and let's talk about how to recognize it and how to help, how to stop it, um, how to listen for those cues when a makes, when you go through something like I have, it makes you really hyper aware. And
Wow, you remind me so much of my wife. You know, we kind of talk, uh, not really jokingly, but kind of just, you know, lightheartedly a little bit about what kind of animals, right, where we are. But on a serious side, that, you know, there's some good meaning to that. And she's a panther, boy. She's, you know, she's you know, very, like you said, very hyper aware, and just not gonna put up with anything, right? Zero tolerance. And one of the things that I've learned, and you know, I you know, with what I know about you, and just the short time that we've been introduced, is that I've learned that people that have that kind of harder outside shell, that protective shell, they're some of the most soft and tender souls on the planet. And that's part of why they're that way, is that they've been hurt, and not just hurt, but in a deep way, because there's just, they're empath, right? They've got so much sensitivity for others and things. And so when that happens, they can easily, in some cases, almost, I don't want to say overcompensate, but it's, you know, it's just about protectiveness, right? It's really just about protectiveness. And and that can be good in a lot of ways, but it can also be difficult for people that are more safe, right? Whether that's spouses, or, you know, relationships, or people that have maybe earned trust, to let some of those down, right? Do you find that that's all true for you as well? Does that ring true for you?
it sure does. And then when you do find someone that you let in, like all the way in, and that person betrays your trust and also hurts you physically and emotionally, which is kind of where I'm at today. That didn't happen very long ago.
Oh,
And
and then that makes it even more confusing.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I'm kind of a hermit.
I'm sorry.
It's
Yeah.
kind of easy to do during COVID, but I've got to figure out a way to really do this on my own now, you know?
Or at least be prepared to, right? It doesn't mean that, there's ever a time where there's just no hope. But, you know, at the same time, if you've been burned when you've, you know, tried to open yourself up, it just makes it even that much more difficult, right? To ah.
Some say I'll just be single for 10 years and by then I'll be too old to date.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had more answers and solutions. Um, I know that there are good, even if they're flawed. I know that there are a lot of good, um, you know, safe people in the world for whatever kind of relationship, you know, people want. But to your point, you know, it's like, you know, what's the risk tolerance, right? With what, you know, and what people have gone through. And if you're at a space where you're like, I'm, you know, that's my decision, that's how I'm going to be able to survive, right? Is there's all sorts of decisions that we make to try to manage our pain or to reduce our pain. You know, it all has to do with our behavior and what our relationship is with the things that cause us pain. And I wish that I could, ever since we started doing this, we've been talking a lot about it, but 7 months ago, I hadn't met a lot of people that were going through the same kinds of things, and I'm grateful that it's part of just our common conversation now, right? As we're interviewing people. But one of the parts that's always hard, every single person that we talk to, we always talk about how everybody still has to cope with things. There's only so much that you can do. There's only so much therapy. There's only so much medications or procedures or walls that you put up. I mean, there's all these different things that we're trying to do to make our life more copable. And hopefully you've been able to find yourself some ways that you feel good is helping with that, because I can't imagine the burden, right, that you have to carry.
Yeah, I really enjoy helping people. That's been my solace. That's what gets me out of my funk.
Service.
Service. It just distracts me from all of the selfish, personal things that go through my head all the time. So I'm really very dedicated to helping others, and I'll jump in and offer before they even ask for help. And I know that I shouldn't do that sometimes, but I almost can't help myself. I just want to keep helping. I developed some products that helped me, and I formed a company out of that, and I'm trying to develop more products to help others. I mean, I'm not saying the products that I have will take away everything that's going on with you. I just want to help lessen your load. So, formulating and researching and helping others, talking to others, that helps me.
There's I'm glad that you mentioned that. Nell talks a lot about that as well, and no matter what you're going through, if you can serve from wherever you're at, right? Even if you're in bed and you send a message of encouragement to someone, and there's some about service, to your point, that's much more than just a distraction. I think that would be underestimating what's going on when you yourself get a benefit of service. If you were to just say, oh well, it just helps distract me and kind of keep my mind off it. Something's, I think, very real, in that what I believe. I believe Heavenly Father, Creator, whatever you want to call it, universe. I think you literally get blessed to be able to have more strength and virtue than you otherwise would on your own, when you choose to do that in the face of what you're going through. I mean, that is pretty admirable when you have reason to, you've got a degree of difficulty with things that are going on, and it's making it difficult to maybe function or to be happy or feel like you're, maybe you don't feel like getting out of your own shell sometimes, right? When you're wanting to kind of be in that protective space. And so with all of that going on, when you still make a conscious decision to get out of yourself and to do something for others, I think there's great power in that. And what an example of that you are. Well, what else do you want to share? I know that we have 10 to 15 minutes here. For those that are watching this on YouTube and they've stuck around for the whole time, what else do you want to talk about? Whether it's the some of these conditions that you've already talked about, and getting into any more detail, or just kind of getting into something that you feel like that you haven't shared yet. What would you like to share that we might not have covered yet?
laws in each state are a little different on pain management. I've been very blessed in Washington that I can have both. I know that where I would prefer to be in Montana, that those laws are not going to be the same. So my pain medication right now does manage my pain and it does give me quality of life. And so I am on my own, and I've told my doctor this. I'm trying to, I'm trying to wean off of medication. I'm trying to maybe even whatever I have to do to get me through to the next doctor, right? I don't know who that's going to be, what their opinion's going to be. That's really scary for people, um, and it's going on everywhere right now. And it also kind of plays into this. It's an epidemic of. It's not pain management patients that are dying of these overdoses. It's people who are abusing them. It's the street drugs.
That's
It's
right.
these fake drugs. Um, and the pain patients get the bad rap for that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, there's a lot of
that's
misconceptions of what's going on there, and there's more people that are just genuinely trying to safely and healthily manage their pain than not.
yes, yes. So that's one thing I'm really concerned about. One thing I'd like everyone to think about. You know, bless you if you don't have to take anything to survive and have the quality of life to where you maybe even enjoy a day out of bed. That's amazing. And sometimes I run into some people who are just, older than me, and I say, where's your pain? And they say, I don't have any. What a foreign concept that is to me. I'm shocked, and I'm like, wow, you're so blessed. At the same time, I wish I could say that.
Yeah.
I wish so many people could say that. But then you have the rest of us who are trying to cope with our pain, who are trying to fight doctors to get medication, who are being cut off from their medication because somebody up above the doctor said, that's not how you're going to treat your patient anymore. Those are issues I think that need to be discussed. I don't have all the answers, but I think that if we come together as a pain community and really start discussing it, and it really does lead back to speaking to your representatives and lawmakers. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of things do, and if you've seen my feed, I don't have a lot of faith in those people right now, but I'm still going to keep talking to them. I'm still going to keep trying. I mean, it don't the road goes to one place, and that's it. Those are the people that make the decisions, and so that's we have to go there in masses, whether it's emails, phone conversations, whatever it is. We've got to get their attention so that we can get some of this stuff changed, so that we deserve quality of life, and we deserve to be as pain free as possible. We deserve to interact with our family and friends. Everyone deserves that. That's a basic human right.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's a um, I think an obvious truth that goes without saying, but that one that warrants a reminder, and that sometimes we have to just keep working with a flawed system and a flawed people. We can't just reject it, right? And working with it doesn't mean you're supporting everything that is happening. It just means that you are grounded in the reality that that's the world that we're living in, and you're trying to find those spaces to be able to still do good with it, right? And so I really commend you for saying that, and nothing changes in a healthy and positive way without challenging it, right? I mean, challenging mindsets, challenging laws, challenging beliefs about what is safe and things like that, and of course, you know. Having it be tempered with wisdom and good judgment and all those kinds of things, but absolutely, I mean, it's unmistakable the lives that are blessed with some of these other substances that they've been able to get, and lawmakers are gradually evaluating things, and things are changing, and hopefully to improve the quality of life and the options that people that people have, right, to pursue for themselves. So regardless of where people fall in their own positions with all of it, hopefully they can at least appreciate the spirit behind those that are involved with that, and how motivated they are with the fact that they might themselves or loved ones have pain, and that there's got to be more and better that we can all do as a society to find ways to make it more copable and make it more a better quality, of life. There's a long way that we need to go, and that's fine that we've come a long way from the 1800s. I'm sure if you were to look at what people were doing to try to keep people out of pain there, it's a nightmare, right? And it was even probably worse, decades even earlier. So yeah, we are blessed in a lot of ways, but for sure have a long way to go. Absolutely. What else? What else do you want to share, and that you would tell people, especially those, sometimes I don't think as much as I should that sometimes people are barely learning about a condition or a loved one, and they're kind of moving into what they would be kind of that outside looking in, and now they're kind of like, wow, this is really caused me to have to be among these people that I never wanted, or I wanted to push off, right, as long as I could, and so they're just barely maybe moving into that space where it's just completely brand new to them. They have no coping skills. They're learning things for the and they might look at those like whether you want to consider it a veteran or someone who's very experienced. You can tell when people have a lot of character, I think, that's been developed because they've gone through hard things. What would you say to those that are kind of brand new to that space, and they're looking at people like you and Nell and others as, help me, I don't know what I'm doing? What would you say to that person?
I would say, first and foremost, always advocate for yourself. Always, if you have questions or concerns about your treatment, always speak up. You might be sitting in front of the world's smartest doctor, but he doesn't know you inside and how you actually feel and what you're going through. So always speak up, but try not to take your anger and aggression and frustration about what you're feeling out on that person. Try to just express it. They give you quizzes all the time. How does this limit your life? Everything from your household chores to your hobbies, right? Answer those honestly. Have those honest discussions. And then, if you can't advocate for yourself, look into other people that can help advocate for you. Health insurance companies have people who advocate, especially for single people who are alone, um, in financial distress. There's more and more of those people starting to become available. Search those out. Call your insurance company and express to them that you need an advocate. And on the other side of that, find the things that bring you pleasure. I began with beading. I didn't know what I was doing. It just helped me pass the time. I could sit in one place. I could make something that I thought was pretty.
Oh,
I could
that's
tear
awesome.
it apart if I didn't like it, and I could redo it.
Yeah.
I found painting the same way. I could paint outside the lines. I could paint back over it if I didn't like it. Find something that makes you happy, that keeps you content, that kind of takes your mind off of that pain, that anguish, that stress, the anger, the frustration. Um, one time someone asked me, and it was after my second neck surgery, what do you do then? Well, at the time I colored, and I was embarrassed to tell them that. I do to
Yeah.
pass my time until I can get up and get around. So whatever you can do, I mean, hopefully you get to the point where you can take a walk and enjoy the beautiful day, or spend some time with an animal that you love, or maybe go see someone else's animal if you can't have an animal. Anything you can do to just put a little bit of joy and peace into your life. Grab onto that and do it as often as you can.
Wow. I love it. Words of wisdom. We've been blessed having you, and yeah, there's services, there's resources, and there's community, right? Even here on TikTok, reach out and follow each other,
Yes.
and reach out to each other.
I found amazing community on TikTok. I avoided this app like it was the plague, and I got on it so I could watch my niece. And then I started finding people that I had similar interests and
Yeah,
beliefs with. And I've met some amazing people from all across the country. We haven't met in person yet, but we are definitely close friends.
yeah, and someday maybe you will, right? That happens where people are able to meet in person, later, but become very good friends. Well, you're certainly one of that for us, and I hope that you feel welcome. And as you watch some of the ones that we've interviewed, both in the past and in the future, and those that you'd love to follow, and hope that you find some great connections. We really tried to all kind of come together to do exactly what you're saying, in advocating for each other and supporting each other, because it really does make a difference. No matter your circumstances, whether you're single, whether you're married, children, have support or not, hopefully you can find that sense of family, here, with us. And so I want to just thank you for joining us. I know that there's a lot to unpack, and whenever we've got an hour, I mean, that it just we recognize that just kind of scratches the surface. But I'm hoping that give you an opportunity to share some things that maybe you haven't even shared yet online. And I look forward to uploading that to YouTube. But we sure love you. We're grateful for you and everything that you do, and hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening. And we'll continue to follow you, my friend. So.
I will continue to follow you. I just wanted to also mention, I am kind of a rebel on here, so it's my third account. But I was able to find so many people that I first found by going through your story. I was like, that's one, there's one, there's one. And I found
Yes.
like 5 people today, so thank you.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, we've got some pretty amazing people that we're connected here. So I'm glad that, if you go through the people that we're either following or have interviewed and things like that, then, I think you'll find some great, people. And I know we've got some people that are kind of joining us at the end of this, but those that are joining. Hey, Misty, I see that you've just joined. We're getting ready to just close up, my friends. So for those that are joining now, you got to go and watch the YouTube video of Tracy and her story after we get it posted. Or you're missing out. She reminds me a lot of Nell, and we need more like you, my friend. And I just want to, again, tell you so to the bottom of our hearts how much we appreciate all that you're doing in the world. So.
I appreciate you too. And now get better. I'm going to be messaging you because I do have a care package for you.
Yes, yeah. Reach out to Nell. She would love it. Oh, she. Okay. Well, we'll be in touch. Thank you so much, and have a good night. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good
Okay.
night.
We'll see you guys. Have a good night, everybody. Night.